Your life.
Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I'm here in half burnout Boulder Creek, California. I am joined by my fantastic co-host, Glory Jones. What's happening, Glory?
This election can choke on a sack of dicks. It sucks, and it's providing a smokescreen for the augmentation of the surveillance state. But hey,
It's
we're here to talk about the real stuff.
it's Satchel of Richards.
Satchel of Richards. We are pleased to welcome back to the show this afternoon the intrepid just tenacious researcher for MCSE Network, writes out a Medium. You can find his work being stolen by mainstream outlets occasionally. Glad to have you back, Mr. Robbie Jaeger. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine, man. Thanks for having me back. It's actually been far too long, actually. But yeah,
I agree.
This is coming up on the election. You would think I'd be working my ass off, but actually, for the last couple of weeks, I've just kind of just been, taking it easy, man. I mean, I think everybody else seems like they're doing a pretty good job, and I was feeling kind of burnt out for a while, so this is kind of like my first jump back into it in a couple of weeks.
Nice. Your colleagues, Pasta and Fee, are just fucking crushing it, man. They
Sure thing.
did
Yeah,
they did
dude,
way too many.
they've been on top of it real big this year, dude.
They
Yeah. Like
they
I don't even
put
know.
in-
Like I hear that Fee sleeps a lot, but I don't see how. I don't see how.
she's
That's what
pretty
Nico
much
says. Nico
she's
says
pretty
that
much
Fee
always
sleeps all
awake.
day, but
She's pretty much always awake whenever I'm awake, and then like when I talk to Nico, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll text her at 8 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, and she's up. It's 5 a.m. over here. Fucking,
I'm
like,
not even awake at 8 o'clock on the East Coast.
I keep a pretty fucked off sleep schedule, but so I really don't sleep any more than like 4 or 5 hours tops. You don't, and it's never all at once, which is fucking fantastic, let me tell you. But so I appreciate it when there's people that keep incredibly weird hours and never seem to sleep. It makes me feel a little bit better about my own insomnia and all of the wonderful things that stem from that. I think the last time that you were on, Robbie, is when we took a look at how and who funded the Intercept. And
Sunrise.
Sure did.
And what was that? Was it really just last week that Glenn Greenwald resigned from the organization that he co-founded? Was it? It feels like a fucking month ago,
dude. Yeah. Well, I mean, it feels because I feel like in essence he's been distanced from the Intercept for quite some time, at least for the Intercept as we know it here in the States. As a matter of fact, I mean, we just recently, Greenwald's like reporting over at Intercept Brazil has basically got Lula out of prison. So there's that, but like as far as like his relationship to the journalists that he had working with him over here at the Intercept with Mehdi Hassan and Naomi Klein and Ryan Graham, it's just it was not it never felt like a good fit, especially when you saw the type of reporting that they've been doing since the end of the primaries. And because since the end of the primaries, it's been they during the article, there was an article written that was detailing Greenwald's resignation, and there was a statement made by someone from the Intercept that said that they had published several articles that were critical of Joe Biden. And they pointed to articles as recently as March, which, as we know, is still during the primary. And they went immediately, just like most other progressive outlets, as soon as the primaries were over, they segued straight into all anti-Trump all the time and completely ignored everything about Biden. And as we see now, pretty much suppressed any kind of anti-Biden reporting, especially from someone like Greenwald. When he publishes something on the Intercept, people read it. you can't always say the same for the Ryan Grimms of the world. Who has his own merit. I'm not gonna, he doesn't always do terrible work. I mean, I don't agree with him on a lot of different philosophies and something like nearly.
I mean, a
anything.
broken clock's right twice a day.
Exactly. But but with Greenwald, he publishes.
It's funny that you mentioned Ryan Grimm, though. It's funny that you mentioned Ryan Grimm, though, because I'm gonna put it up on the share screen so we can look at it. But I'm pretty sure that he is trying to compare Biden to Evo Morales.
No.
Oh my lord.
Yeah. What we're watching now, late counted votes from one side supporters changing who's in the lead, is exactly what happened in Bolivia. It was obviously not fraud then, but the OAS and US media used it to oust Morales. The difference was Evo was always in the lead. The only question was whether the lead was big enough to avoid a runoff. Are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, again, if you're going to make that kind of comparison, I would try to make it with as few qualifications as possible. He keeps trying to qualify. The only difference is almost everything, right? So, that doesn't make much sense to me. But sure, I mean, look, this is the kind of age we're in. These are the leaps of logic that several so-called progressive outlets and their reporters make to justify their absolutely ludicrous positions about certain individuals that view through an objective lens. There's no way in hell you would even consider supporting them if you actually had the value system that you said you did. It's just the way I look at it. Like, there's just no way that somebody like a true through and through progressive could vote for Biden, and really truly feel like that he's being that he's representative or somebody that will actually fight for what you believe in. There's just no way in hell, dude. Like, I just don't see it. But there was a great branding initiative by the GOP to try to paint him as a socialist and try to paint him as like some like kind of leftist manifestation of everything that's going to like destroy the world. He's the stepping stone to fucking communism, which is, we all know, sitting right here, that's just could not be further from the truth. He's probably going to be the most conservative Democratic president at least 50 years, if not more. And that's saying something, by the way.
It really is.
I mean, because Biden comes from a time, that was the status quo back then. And if you really think that he's going to do most of the stuff he was talking about in the run up to beating Trump, I mean, these are politicians we're talking about, and Biden knows better than anyone that in order to win an election that's especially going to be this close as we see now, you're going to have to say whatever the hell you have to get people to vote for you. And he was pandering to Republicans more often than he was pandering to progressives. But whenever he did pander to progressives, he didn't really do it. He had surrogates do it. Surrogates like Bernie Sanders, AOC, the likes like that.
Well, and it just rings out hollower than chicken bones, man. It's bad. And the fact that people are walking around right now, look, as far as I know, a president hasn't been declared yet. They haven't said yes, it's Biden or yes, it's Trump, which is on purpose, and they want this period of chaos and confusion to help ignite another lockdown, crackdown on protests, all that other shit. Nice little rollout of everything that Whitney Webb's been talking about over the last couple of weeks. But it's quote unquote lefties and like 95% of Rose Twitter is just like so willing to let what is clearly an election that's being stolen in broad daylight on behalf of Joe Biden go down without being like, they keep doing this and maybe somebody ought to say something about it. No, they're like, we're gonna get this and then we're gonna move him to the left.
Well, I think that kind of speaks back to the just absolutely asinine and idiotic comparisons to Bolivia, which is Bolivia's election systems. People don't realize, especially progressives apparently don't realize, that Bolivia's election systems are vastly superior to ours, like in terms of security, in terms of a chain of custody for the ballots, in terms of, voter verification. It's far superior, and they still get international observers for that. Meanwhile, you try and bring up any of that shit to these Rose DSA fucks, suddenly is, man, you're a right winger. What are you, a Trumper now? Oh my God, I knew it the whole time. You were really a grifter for Donald Trump. Man, I can't believe you. Mm-mm.
Mask off, motherfucker. Yeah, dude, it's bad.
Oh God. Oh God, that's my new favorite, by the way. Mask off. Like, okay, chill out, Bruce. Like, come on.
Bruce.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't feel like because and look, being with being associated with MCSC, and especially like Fiorella, man, she draws some of the crazies, like the crazies, and like seeing the kind of like smears that come at anybody that dares question like the tried and true narrative of, say, God, it was so crazy. Like we were kind of calling it as it was happening or before it happened. We were saying that, hey, a lot of these people now that are supposedly pushing for Bernie and stuff during the primary, when it comes down to Bernie getting fucked over again, or in this case, fucking everybody else over, in the case that he did in his case this year, when it's all said and done, they will be the same ones to push you down that vote blue matter who vote blue no matter who doorway, and they almost unilaterally all did that, and they've destroyed their credibility because of it. So I mean, look, we're at when people like that, see people like Fiorella, such as yourself, saying things that doesn't jive with that, because it was always just about Orange Man bad and nothing else. And if you bring up anything else other than that, you're a fucking you're a right winger, you're whatever, because the Americans' understanding of the political spectrum is, I have found to be lacking, to say the least. But just usually just boils down to downright ignorance, and that just makes me like people that are like, oh, Biden's going to be the most progressive president, since name your Democrat, right? Like that's what they're
Bernie's
trying to
out
sell
there
you.
calling him the next FDR.
That's Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
That's Bernie.
And that's, look, like we all like, how absurd is that? People want to talk about he's going to like help solve the the problem of mass incarceration. He's the one that created the problem of mass incarceration. Like he thinks my biggest fear of a Biden presidency, quite honestly, because look, economically things are probably going to stay similarly. I don't think that he'll get the kind of bumps that Trump had out of the economy should he win, but I do think that he's conservative enough to give corporations enough to kind of sate their interests until the next election when he inevitably does not run. But as far as foreign policy goes, I feel like we're in real big trouble now if Biden were to pull this election out, because of the sole fact that he's gonna initiate more conflicts. Things are going to get less peaceful around the world under a Joe Biden presidency, and it's going to start in Russia. And I mean, look, they've been pushing this. This has been their objective or as far back as I can remember, probably for the last 6 years or so. It's always been paint Russia as the mortal enemy of America, and let's get every excuse we can and to get into a new Cold War. And I feel like Biden would want to push it to a hot war eventually. Like the way he talks about Russia and about Syria and about these other countries out there like North Korea, especially during the primaries, during the debates, like he was saying some pretty scary stuff to me. It almost made it sound like he was itching to hop into a conflict with these nations. And the only other person that really made me feel that way was Pete Buttigieg. Like Pete Buttigieg has some scary rhetoric on his foreign policy. It was almost like, oh yeah, we're going to go in there and we're going to get rid of Assad. That's number one. We're going to do that. And if Putin wants some of this, he can come get it too. Almost as that was like the tone they were taking, and that is a no-go. That is not where we need to be going as a nation at all. It's we need to be running away from that situation as fast as possible because it's going to be a disaster.
Didn't Biden say some shit about Iran too?
Yeah.
And North Korea, don't forget about them. With special guest star China. So
well, here's the thing about China though, because there's been a bunch of rumors. I don't know how substantiated they are. I haven't really looked into it yet about Biden having like a sweetheart deal with the Chinese government. Now, whether or not that's true, one thing that is absolutely guaranteed is a return to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And that in and of itself is ceding U.S. sovereignty entirely to the point to where if you wanted to go after a corporation for screwing you over, you would not be doing that in a U.S. court. You would be doing it in basically like a tribunal with a handful of representatives from other corporations who would hear your grievances and tell you exactly when and how to suck their dick.
That's true.
Essentially what that would come down to. And Kamala Harris, that look, man, I don't think Biden would make it to the inauguration. I don't. I think he'll be out of the picture before that. I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised because I have heard a theory put forth that if Biden is in office for more than 2 years and then he steps on a rainbow, then Kamala can be president for a decade because she could still run twice.
True.
Effectively serving as president for 10 years, which is the end of the fucking world. Like, hands down.
It's not good. It's not good. But here's the thing, though, Steve. Quickly, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but Republicans can, in a perfect world, we want a third party or somewhere along the line, another voice out there. Please God, anybody. But Republicans can win, but they have to change how they do politics, and that is to get younger and less white, or else you're going to keep losing. That's there are ways to do it. They got to get Republicans. They know the demographics that they're trying to win, and yet they consistently ignore them in the electoral process, and then wonder why they're losing in counties like Las Vegas. Whenever you have big urban epicenters where you have opportunity there to sway a lot of young independent voters from across the spectrum, and they completely ignore them 100%, and they just stick to their guns. Let's get the suburban white male, let's get the rural white male and their wife, and let's just make sure let's hope that's enough to win. And obviously it doesn't work. It works once every couple of decades, and but if it's called insanity, right? You do the same thing over and over expecting a different result. You basically get what you're asking for.
Yeah, well, the only attention they pay to that issue, to that demographic, is through tokenization, essentially. So it's like, hey, kids, look at Kamala Harris. She's going to be your first half Jamaican president. Oh, snap. Is that Kamala Harris wearing Timbs? Whoa, that's so rad. Oh my God, did you hear Biden said inshallah during a town hall? Oh my, wait, hear me out. Beto or work speaking Spanish, bro. It's really sad because that's the strategy that they fall back on. And I see way too many people that just straight up eat it up. And it's the most annoying shit ever. And progressives are particularly guilty of this because they fall for this identity politics bullcrap and tokenization that's pushed by the Democratic Party, despite at the end of the day, they're falling for the same exact white savior complex that led them to regard Bernard Sanders as holier than thou, thy holy Bernie, and put him above literally everybody else, despite the fact that he essentially threw Bree Joy Gray under the bus after his campaign, and no one wants to talk about that now. Don't question Bernie, because I'm just so grateful he got me into politics, and it's really annoying.
Oh, it ruined a lot of people.
In terms of Republicans trying to reach out to become less old and white, though, like that's not their game plan, really. Their game plan is to make it as hard as possible for people to vote, which not that we have free and fair elections anyway, but you know, limit the number of people that turn out, close down polling stations in areas that aren't going to vote for you, and and implement programs like cross-check to purge people from the voter rolls, which works unless you've got an opposition party that is headlong doing their own fucking rigging and has ways to mysteriously find 100,000 exactly ballots for Joe Biden, and has a way to, have you seen the graphs where Biden's numbers go up and it's like a straight vertical line?
Yeah.
Like where all of these ballots just miraculously appeared.
Well, and the same tactics that the Republicans use that would be regarded as, you know, suppression and preventing people from voting, the Democrats did that same shit in the primary, and like no one cared. It's like Fee and Pasta, and Johnny as well, they checked out the room where the provisionals were being counted, and all the ones that needed extra verification were people with Latino sounding names. And then it's the same thing where, you know, during Florida's primary, they straight up ran out of ballots at a polling place in Dania Beach, which, you know, is a Hollywood like working class area with a lot of people of color. So the same tactics that the Republicans use, the Democrats do it as well, and they did it in the primary. But I just happened to forget that no one cared then. They were too busy making sure that Bernie would win. So
the Bernie Sanders dead enders. Go ahead, Robbie.
Oh man, no, you're good. Go ahead, because that's where I was heading. But go ahead.
Yeah, the Bernie Sanders dead enders are the most gullible people on the face of the earth. Like even children learn pretty quickly when they're being fucked with. Bernie Sanders dead enders, for some reason, have they've decided that they're going to plant their flag in that old man's ass and just build a home there. And I don't know what it's going to take, because in 2016, after Bernie threw his entire base under the bus, like over and over and over again within the same week, they went and voted for him, or voted for HRC at 88%. I don't know what the count is going to be this year. I imagine it might be a little higher. Like I originally thought it was going to be 75 to 85% of burners were like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to do it. I can't believe they did it again. But based off of what I'm seeing around social media and the people that I've been talking to in town that I know were like diehard Bernie supporters, to a person, damn near, they voted for Joe Biden. And it's like, so did you just like the design of the t-shirt? Like, I don't get it. If you're willing to sacrifice 100% of your principles for political expediency, then you are going to continue to sacrifice your principles in every other aspect of your life. And I don't like, it doesn't bode well for you.
No, it also doesn't bode well for the like the true left going forward, is because they've been so damn susceptible to the influence of figureheads such as Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders brings them all in with all of his shiny objects, and then as soon as everybody's paying attention to them, that's whenever he's got them all nice and hypnotized, and then he tells them, "Hey, go vote for my good friend Joe Biden, who's going to be the next FDR." And what do? Well, hey, Saint Bernard said that it was the way to go, and like he's never wrong. Like he's God King Bernie, and but again, 2016 created a all new, all different grift machine going forward when it comes to journalism as well. And it is kind of hard to parse out the good faith actors among us. That's why I'm kind of glad I landed in the spot I did whenever I first got brought into everything. Because looking around us at other blue check so-called independent journalists and media outlets, a lot of them have basically gone the exact same way as Bernie did. And because Bernie's appeal, obviously, was that he was an HRC, right? He was supposedly the progressive answer, and so in that regard, dissenting media that backed Bernie Sanders against the more centrist media, of course, the mainstream media that backed Hillary Clinton, that became a source of income for a lot of people. It became a source of attention for a lot of people. And now they've realized that, hey, obviously the election came back up again. Let's hop back on the Bernie train one more time. Let's see if we can't get this to go where it goes. And then as soon as it became okay to jump from Bernie to Biden, because Bernie basically said, hey, go do that. I mean, that's basically what he told all of his surrogates to do. That's what he told all of his supporters to do. And now they basically were able to show their true colors. And it's basically like, you either are what you were whenever you first hit the scene, and you're progressive, you actually believe in these things, and you're willing to fight for these things, even if it means voting for somebody outside of the duopoly, or you're just going to capitulate at your earliest convenience because that's the way the wind blows. And that means that you never really had those principles to begin with. And the purpose of voting now, at least in my opinion, is that we have to build up other parties. So voting still has it definitely still has its merit, but there's no way you can be someone on the left, on the real left, that actually values progressive ideology more or less. You really value the environment. You really take a hard stance when it comes to issues like campaign finance reform and environmental reform and foreign policy reform. The list goes on and on. You can't actually have those real.
Reform.
Yeah, you can't have these kind of stances and then just say, well, that's fantasy world. I wish things were like that, but they're never going to be like that, so we're just going to have to settle for the less of two evils. And that just doesn't make any sense. You could actually build a new party with all of you, with people that actually felt like that decided to just go back to the status quo instead of branching off. If more people actually had that mentality, there would be enough people to branch off and actually get these third parties on the debate stage, into local offices, into Congress and stuff like that. But there's an entire grift centered around herding them back towards the center, and it's been a successful one. I mean, just look at the Young Turks. We were calling that the Young Turks were going to. We saw it in 2016, and all through the primaries, us three, I know, we're sitting around saying exact same thing. Stop listening to the Young Turks. They're going to try to, they're going to sit here and tell you that they're the home for progressives. And as soon as the chips fall towards the center, they're going to follow because that's where the money is. That's where the clicks are. And that's exactly what they did. And that's what, I mean, Cenk Uygur has been like Biden's best surrogate over the last month and a half trying to get Bernie supporters in there. It's been ridiculous. Anna Kasparian has, their whole coverage has been an abomination from basically start to finish. And I think they should go ahead and just change their entire network slogan, change everything, because they go ahead and just go get those cozy MSNBC jobs, because that's what they're vying for. That's where they deserve to be.
Well, their whole gig is we are safe internet content. They're MSNBC with occasional swear words is what it basically amounts to. But what they've done is position themselves as a media company to where they can herd younger people into the Democratic Party to where they can get them used to losing, get them used to having their dreams dashed away in a rigged primary, get them used to compromising their principles, and when they grow up, they'll make fantastic Democrats. That's about what that amounts to.
Yes.
I did watch, and I hadn't watched TYT in years. I watched about 2 minutes of their election night meltdowns, and it was tasty.
You guys, it was so brilliant. Cenk Uygur was having a meltdown. Anna looked like she was about to cry. And to make everything like 50 times better, the whole chat was just full of trolls going like, MAGA, yeah, cry.
They were getting super chat. They probably got like close to $800 in super chats that were just people going fucking Trump and like MAGA. And like, oh, dude, they were just, it was relentless, man.
Yeah, I
That's
tuned
America
into
for
that
you.
stream the same way I watched Sharknado 2. It's like a glorious car crash.
Shark.
Just want to watch the disaster. Yes.
Yep.
I mean, that's look. I had it. Look. The coverage of election night has been, in my opinion, like atrocious. It's been almost as atrocious as like the election itself. The coverage of it has been a disaster as well. You got several different outlets calling states and then retracting. Look, but we knew this going in, right? That regardless of the outcome of the election, that it was already being primed for months now by both campaigns to distrust the results if the results weren't the ones they wanted. And both of them were practically going to blame the same thing. The Trump campaign was going to blame all of the mail-in votes. And quite honestly, look, when Trump tweeted the other night, how are so many of these mail-in ballots for Joe Biden? And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, well, because you pretty much told all of your supporters not to use them, so like that might have something to do with it. I mean, he is the president and we all know his supporters follow him pretty much to a T, whatever he says, largely as well. And and he knows that he uses that to his advantage better than almost anyone. And like you saw especially Cenk's his electoral college prediction, right?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
I
how, like,
saw
big of
Kalinski's map.
Yeah, they were both horrendous.
Did
It
you
was
see
crazy.
Tom Hartman's Padawan's fucking election prediction map? He had Biden at
Kalinski,
like 380 electoral votes or some shit.
What?
Yeah,
That was
I should
never
go
ever
find
gonna
it.
happen.
He probably
These people had Florida going blue. I'm like,
No.
I don't
deleted it by now if he was smart. He did.
it's like I don't know where, like it's like every 4 years people act surprised that Florida votes the way it does. It's like, bro, I could have predicted the results in Florida when I was fucking 10 years old. It's like
Yes.
Broward and Dade are gonna go blue. Everywhere else is gonna go red. The Gusanos are gonna take over and have a party at the polls, and then the rednecks are gonna come out as well in Okeechobee and have a blast, and it's gonna start out blue because Broward and Dade are such huge counties, but then it's gonna go red, and people are gonna act shocked as to why Miami Cubans are voting for Trump. And it's like, bro, I could have told you about Gusano Central when I was 10, and that's before I even got into politics. So,
but you can just look at history, and that tells you that Florida, I mean, especially under a president like Trump, Florida is going to go to Trump. I mean, I mean, Biden even underperformed in Dade, which is kind of astounding considering his overperformance in practically everywhere else. But something about Florida, people just did not like him in Florida as much as they liked HRC, which is saying something because they absolutely hated her ass down there.
I want to show
yeah.
you Kalinski's prediction map, though.
Oh my! They had whoa, Florida
Wow.
blue. That's
Florida blue, Georgia blue, New Mexico
North Carolina blue.
fucking Texas in light red.
Yeah,
It's like
I don't understand that because I mean, look, I mean, it was a good call on Wisconsin and Michigan. I don't think Biden's going to get Pennsylvania. I mean, that's a debatable point. A lot of people are saying that he
They'll
might
have to
and that he
steal
might
it.
not. You know, but
They
you know, North
clearly
Carolina's
stole
not going to
Michigan,
happen.
and they clearly stole Wisconsin.
I mean, look, but and there's no way, and we're never going to know. And this is the worst part about all of this, right? Is that this is actually a very pivotal moment. It's not as pivotal as 2016, where you know because that was the one. I mean, honestly, looking back in hindsight, it is 2020, and we see now that the winner of that election got to put 3 more people on the Supreme Court. That's a very, very impactful thing, and it makes it one of the most important presidencies in recent memory just for that fact alone. I mean, he's determined the damage is done, as they would say. The course of the country's future for at least the next 10 years or so has probably been determined by what he's done, especially since Democrats failed through all that money at the Senate races and failed to get back a majority. As far as at least from the last numbers I saw, has that changed? Does anybody know if that's changed or not?
I don't.
I don't. I had to go to work early today, and I drove as fast as I could here, ran my ass through a shower, and then got in front of the screen, and here we are.
Right.
Like I haven't really looked at anything since about.
But I mean, regardless of that, like a Biden administration is going to be hamstrung from the get-go. And that's what I've been trying to tell Republicans. I was like, look, I said it earlier today on Twitter. I was like, out of all the Democrats that could have possibly defeated Trump, Biden is probably your best case scenario, so like, cause he's gonna work right hand in hand with Mr. Bridge Builder is going to work right hand in hand with Mitch McConnell as often as he pleases. And it's going to piss a lot of Democrats off. Or at least it should if they actually stood for what they said. But what they're actually going to do is do what they always do and make excuses for why their guy is doing all this crap. But look, I'm kind of with you. Like people are going to call us conspiracy theorists for this. But yeah, I can totally see Harris taking over by 2022. And then becoming president for 2 years and then actually being able to serve 2 additional full terms. I mean, that sounds like the kind of game that the Democratic Party would play at this stage. I mean, look, there's people calling for them adding 4 seats to the Supreme Court, which you might as well just, get rid of it at that point because it becomes absolutely redundant.
Put 40 on there.
Why not?
Why not?
It's absurd. Completely absurd.
Here's the thing, though. They fucked over their chance of ever being able to court when they punted on Merrick fucking Garland, Chuck Grassley's pick for Supreme Court. By the way, that's who Chuck fucking Grassley wanted on the bench was Merrick Garland. And they punted on him because they were so convinced that they had the election sewn up for Hillary that they didn't need to appoint another justice at the end of Obama's term. Ruth Bader Ginsburg could have stepped down during Obama's presidency, but no, she liked the attention that she got, and she liked all
like being able to approve pipelines on indigenous land.
I'm about to say, hey, these pipeline disputes aren't these pipeline disputes aren't going to resolve themselves, people. I gotta hang in there, Yeah, no, I mean, look, the Democrats are constantly screwing themselves, shooting themselves in the foot, and then blaming everybody else for it, But that's that's just the way they go, and that's why like we're screwed either way, right? I mean, we already knew this going in. No matter who won, we were fucked over.
I wanna read something out of the chat here real quick from Miss Prepper. She says Joe Jorgensen would have pardoned Assange. That's who we need for real change. We need more libertarians. And let me say that if libertarians gave a fuck about election integrity, we would have more libertarians. But every time I try to rally somebody, and every time I try to get people to fucking, at least fucking hold an event for integrity. My libertarians are nowhere to be found. Nowhere. Like, again, we don't have a legitimate electoral system. We flat the fuck out don't. This gets proven every time we hold an election. I'm not convinced that I've ever lived through a free and fair election. If we were a brown country, we would be sending a team of UN observers to monitor our elections. Just so.
And that's why I declare Steve Poikonen interim president of the United States.
God help us all.
DMT is now mandatory.
Yeah.
Mandatory DMT. No, I don't fucking,
I mean,
but no, I'm serious, dude. And like, I'm not trying to be like a dick to you or anything, Miss Prepper. I'm just saying, like, I look, I would have voted, had I not written in Cynthia McKinney and I wanted to do something nice, I probably would have voted for Gloria La Riva. But after that, even though I've got a lot of issues with Joe, I could see myself voting for. I could have seen myself voting for her just to try and pad their total here in California. But libertarians really got to get on board with their left libertarian counterparts who are doing a ton of work for and on behalf of secure elections and for and on behalf of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. Fucking, it is really hard to get a hold of libertarians when we're trying to do something for Julian Assange. Like, Adam Kokesh is pretty much always there. Big shout out to Adam Kokesh,
Right.
you know. And in fact, if I'm going to be interim president, I'll pick up on Adam's platform where it's pardon all political prisoners and whistleblowers that were locked up, and abolish the federal government.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Start it. I mean, look,
that was his platform. I can get behind that platform. Free Julian Assange and all political prisoners, and we're going to begin a peaceful dismantling of the federal government.
That's fair.
Yeah,
you know,
because I mean, look, that sounds like the best case scenario, right? A dismantling and then a rebuilding it from the ground up, almost at this point.
If you had a machine that was designed to kill 99% of the population, your solution to the inherent design flaw to that machine wouldn't be let's slap a couple shiny new parts on it every 2 to 4 years. All you're doing is prolonging the life of a machine designed to kill you. You would design a new machine, but only with the American political system are we like, no, a little bit more lipstick and that pig's gonna win us a beauty contest. Little more, couple new parts, it'll be all right.
But but part of it is that even with the old parts, some of the parts we keep the same parts for like 40 years and they keep killing people over and over again, and we just decide, you know what, that's the thing that makes it all tick right there. Let's keep that part. Let's just, let's oil it up, let's shine it up, make it look like new again, and then let's keep that old part. Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, like Adam or Chuck Schumer, like Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, the same names over and over again.
I don't mean to talk shit, except I do need to talk shit. Dianne Feinstein looks like a fucking ghoul. I think she's like 5 times my age. It's really something to see that she's still like on the floor in the halls of Congress.
She's American Thatcher. In fact, when Margaret Thatcher died, Dianne Feinstein experienced a quickening. She did.
Oh my god. That could be only one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I mean to laugh at my own jokes, but that was fucking good. It was.
Oh my god.
That's a keeper right there.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, man, like, but look, I mean, all of these problems, like, can be solved. Like I agree with the in gist of the the message that you just read, is that the answer does lie in smaller parties. The answer does lie in somehow, some way dismantling the two-party system. That is number one. That needs to be first and foremost in the hearts and minds of anybody that actually wants to try to change anything at all. Is that there's got to be more. We have to have a representative government. And we just do not have that. We have two parties that represent 99% of, or the 1%, and the corporations that they that they own and that they serve. And that's pretty much it. And the only problem is that they spend so much time on this a narrative of this false dichotomy between the two of them, that one of them is trying to save the world and the other one's trying to burn it to the ground, when in reality they're just walking hand in hand into oblivion and laughing the whole time. And they're and basically they're pushing us at the front of the line while they just get to sit there and watch, and they get to be the last ones. We have to build up third parties, and this is the problem with the progressive left that pisses me off the most, almost out of anything, is that you've got, I mean, let's just face it, the Bernie grift machine that started in 2016, not just with independent media folks, but also with these little astroturfed movements that keep popping up, and it kept popping up. And
are you referring to Nick Brana?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, no. Well, I mean, maybe I'm not
Are you
educated
referring
enough
to
on his.
Sunrise?
I am referring to, yes, I'm referring to Sunrise and stuff like that. And quite honestly, Steve, I know you've been very critical of Moving for a People's Party. And to be quite honest with you, I'm gonna go out and just say I'm not educated enough on them. I know that they had a big deal, like a big convention or whatever, had lots of prominent speakers, right? But I don't really know exactly what they're all about. Like, are they actually a real party, or are they, just fun? Like, what are they actually doing? They just want.
Yeah, we don't know either.
Half the speakers told you
exactly.
dude, half the speakers told you to vote for Biden.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
more than half.
I mean, so
they had like the junior varsity of the Democratic presidential candidates up there. They had Queen got up there and was like, "Yeah, you should vote for Joe Biden." Yeah, and like
one man bad.
I'll give Marianne Williamson a little bit of credit for her evolution on Julian Assange, but she got up on stage and told everybody to vote for Joe Biden. Cornel West did the exact same thing. Movement for a People's Party has been around since 2016. Was originally a draft Bernie thing. A couple of other like newly formed or existing left movements helped Nick out to try and deliver a petition to Bernie Sanders, and then it turned out that he had never communicated to anybody in Bernie staff whatsoever about the petition, and that's how they like debuted. Right. But
gotcha.
4 years into it, they're just now talking about maybe sort of becoming a real political party when they grow up. And to hear Nick Brana tell it, all you have to do is snap your fingers and your party gets ballot access, which is either dangerously naive, dangerously stupid, or something a fucking intel asset would tell a room full of leftists in order to sucker them into yet another like fake company ran left movement, which is something that has happened since the late 40s. I'm going to talk about the book again because I think everybody should read the book. There's a book called Finks: How the CIA Tricked the World's Best Journalists by a guy named Joel Whitney, and it starts post World War II with the CIA taking over a number of small newspapers in France, and it sort of goes through the evolution of intelligence funded and intelligence ran media, and or at least heavily co-opted, if not outright financed by. And part of that is an exploration into how the FBI and the CIA started leftist organizations and movements and political parties all over Europe and Central and South America, and a ton of organizations here in the States were either directly created out of Langley, or Langley and the FBI would put assets in almost immediately. Gloria Steinem was a CIA asset, for fuck's sake. Like, I just want everybody to, to think about that for a moment. And credit to Boots Riley for making me remember that Gloria Steinem was a CIA asset.
I mean, look, man, we're in a dangerous age now, especially with the censorship boom that we're seeing now. Look, I mean, these social media platforms that they say that they're social media platforms. They are not that anymore. What they are, or at least what they attempt to be being right now, are arbiters of information, or what they're they act like publishers, right? They want to editorialize everybody else's their tweets, the information that's in it. Like, it used to be a platform of expression, right? And I'm not sure about you guys, but growing up, it was just a known thing about the universe, is that like death, taxes, and that there were liars on the internet. I didn't need Facebook and Twitter mods to tell me that there might be somebody lying to me on the other side of this exchange on the internet. I just assumed that was a given, and that if I really wanted to know if someone was telling the truth or not, I could either educate myself or just not be so fucking gullible. There are options, there are other alternatives to get around this situation, other than the total suppression of everybody's speech that doesn't fall in exact line with a non-publisher's editorial standards, which should be non-existent, because you're supposed to be a platform, not a publisher. I mean, I understand you don't want people posting like child pornography on your website. Yes, censor that. That's fine. I mean, honestly, that is fine. But like speech, it's if somebody's going to lie on the internet, like, it's going to get to the point now where like you can't, the meme will go bye-bye. We want to be able to do that, because it's like, oh, there's misleading information in this meme that I just posted, which was supposed to be the entire intention of it was to be funny or misleading, but you can't even do that anymore. Like, oh, that video has been altered. Like, is there was a video of Nancy Pelosi going around where they had like screwed with the audio on her voice, to where she was like slurring her words when she was speaking and stuff, and people were like, Twitter put a tag on like, this media has been altered. And it's like, well, no shit has been altered. It was supposed to be like that. Somebody was making fun of her. Like, that's what people do on the internet. We make fun of things on the internet. Like, and now you can't. I'm like, this is the thing. I think it's discouraging for me, like, as a journalist, and like, I post on the internet a lot of information that, albeit is public already, but when I'm posting up like say FEC disclosures, or a senator or a congressman or woman's financial disclosures that they've submitted, and I'm talking about their financial information, at a certain point it's going to be against TOS for even us to do that. And then in that case, it's the total shutting down of lots of independent journalists and reporters, because honestly, it's going to get to the point where, unless you have a blue check by your name, or a white check for us night mode users, that you're basically you're going to be silenced. You're not going to be allowed to report anything. You're only going to be allowed to read. So I mean, essentially, there's got to be something that has to be done. I don't know exactly what that is. I know that we have lots of problems and not many solutions, but Twitter and Facebook especially, they get lots of goodies from our federal government. And if they're going to be receiving so much funds in the form of government contracts and revenue and stuff like that, if they're getting so much revenue stream from our federal government, it makes me feel like that it makes me feel like you're almost an employee or an extension of the federal government, and as such, you might not be able, or you shouldn't be able, to suppress somebody speaking on your platform, because I mean, quite honestly, like, there's got to be some kind of distinction drawn here, or else it will literally be CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, New York Times, Washington Post, and that's your only options. You won't be a Slow News Day or MCSC anymore if things keep going the way they're going, because we just won't be allowed to do what we do, and it's a damn shame.
If we wind up in the same dissident camp, are you opposed to getting like matching tattoos?
Nah, man, I'm good. We're good.
All right.
Yeah.
Censorship and just like further bolstering of the national security state is becoming like a real tangible problem, and like so many people are just absolutely just completely fumbling and dropping the ball on covering it, because it's what's going on behind the scenes. In downtown LA, they're declaring citywide tactical alerts for election 2020 activities every single day for as long as this election drags on. So you get increased police presence, increased sheriff's presence, and it's getting bad to the point where they arrested like 2 journalists yesterday, and they arrested people from the National Lawyers Guild on Tuesday night, and like they're gonna keep doing it as this election drags on, and this censorship is gonna keep getting ramped up on social media. And like outside of Slow News Day, MCSC, and a couple other outlets, no one's fucking talking about it, and it's really pathetic, because like we're screaming from the rooftops about this stuff, trying to warn people, and it's like it's gonna get to the point where it's just so where the boot on your neck is so heavy you can't breathe, and we're reaching that point right now. Particularly if you get on the ground, or if you're a very adversarial voice to any of the government's narratives, like this channel, like MCSC, like Combo Couch, like Gray Zone, like all of them. And we're getting censored, and we're like the freaking canary for everyone. And so is Julian Assange, because like what's going to happen to us is going to come back around. Like it's going to come back around to all these stupid fucks on the independent media that think that they can vote their way out of this, and that maybe if we just expand the squad a bit more, then we'll get a nicer sheriff in the sheriff's department, so I can get tear gassed by a Latina woman instead of like a white man. Goody. I'm really looking forward to getting detained by Kamala Harris instead of Brian Mueller. Thanks for that, you fucks. I warned Steve.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
By the way, that this rant was coming. So
we've got a handful of questions in the chat for you, Robbie. I know you don't have too much longer to hang out.
Yeah, but I got about like 15, 30 minutes, man. We're good.
Okay. So I'm gonna read them in kind of reverse order. Any thoughts on what actions could finally end long enjoyed impunity for war criminals?
What could finally end the long enjoyed impunity for war criminals? Man, that's actually a tough question, because of the way that things are set up right now, the answer was nothing. I know that sounds like a cynic's answer, a pessimist's answer, but it's also a realist's answer, because the reality of the situation is that war criminals are not only more or less like ignored in popular culture, as we can see, or not even in popular culture, yes, but also in political culture as well. We just don't want to admit that President X, Y, or Z was a war criminal. But the reality of that fact is that most of them are, and a lot of the people that enabled them to do these things are as well. But the problem is that those same people and their sycophants and their the people that have been kissing their ass for the last 30 years or however long they've been in DC are the people that run our government. And as long as they're the same people that are running our government, they're never going to really hold anybody accountable for anything. And that's why George Bush is being, and it's not even just like being, ignored as a war criminal. You're rehabilitated out of political expediency. And we've seen that with the Democratic Party reforming the image of George W. Bush, one of the most heinous individuals to ever walk the planet. And I don't give a fuck about what anybody has to say about, oh, well, Trump is the worst president. No, he's not. Tell that to the kids of Afghanistan and Iraq that had to grow up without parents because of George W. Bush. You can say what you want. Yeah, I mean, there's the situation in Yemen, and Trump has got a lot of that on his plate. But don't tell me that George W. Bush is oh, I long for the days when we had an actual great president. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's president. If that's presidential to you, then I don't want that brand of politics. But
They're
he's a
gonna do
hero
the
now.
exact same thing to Donald Trump too.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
fucking, especially if there's 2 terms of President Camillery. If we get, the Trump will get rehabilitated so fast because the next monster isn't going to shoot themselves in the dick every time they open their mouth.
Dick Cheney should have been tried in an international court for multiple.
We have the U.S.
He should be rotting away in a cell somewhere right now, not being a chairman, not instead of being as far the American Enterprise Institute, literally writing white sheets for policies that Republican senators are taking to our legislature. Instead of doing that, he should be sitting in prison.
That's how legislation largely gets created, though.
Yeah.
Like in general. I fucking John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, Donald Trump, and a handful of other members of the Trump administration have openly threatened to go after the families of people on the ICC. Yeah, the ICC is fucking useless.
Yeah.
And what it would really take is a fucking modern era Bastille Day minus the Bavarian Illuminati orchestrating all of it. I'm kidding. I'm fucking kidding.
Of course there's gonna be an Illuminati orchestrating it all, right?
What does Robbie think of a constitutional upgrade for this millennium?
Well, I don't know exactly what that would entail. I mean, specifically, I think that, obviously, if I was on the Supreme Court, I would be someone that would definitely read it as something to be interpreted for the times that we live in. And this is an unpopular opinion when I'm having discussions with a lot of people that have a problem with the way things go. The fact of the matter is that we live in America. America is governed by the rules of the Constitution. The Constitution is a living document. Therefore, if there is something that you don't like in the Constitution, you have the ability to change it, but you also have to have a certain measure of power. And in order to obtain that power, you have to go through an election and acquire votes. And so for the last 4 years, with Democrats complaining about numerous things that could have been changed ages ago when they actually had the power, but they were abusing that power and they were enjoying the benefits of these things. Now, when they're on the wrong side of the Constitution, they feel like that, it's unfair and things shouldn't be working. And quite honestly, if you wanted to change the Constitution, get the power by getting votes, and you're not going to get votes by shunning half of your party, which would be the progressive wing of the party, So, and that's the thing. It all boils down to, if you want the power to change the Constitution, you have to give the people something to vote for. You have to give them a reason to put you in that position to do that. And there are numerous constitutional amendments that probably should go into effect. A lot of them have to do with, look, election reform is obviously needed. There's lots of, there would be we can have an entire discussion over how we were to go about that, as far as electoral college versus ranked choice voting. Look, there's a discussion to be made that we should dismantle the entirety of it and build it back up from the ground up, as with most of the government. But look, there's lots of, it depends on the issue, though. There are some things that should be changed. Again, we were having this discussion a few weeks ago. There was this big problem with the confirming of Amy Coney Barrett in the Supreme Court, and how, they stole this, they did that. When the reality of the matter is that we should have had term limits long ago, and that there were, numerous of us, millions of us screaming, hey, we need term limits for Supreme Court justices. We need term limits or, term restrictions on senators and representatives. There shouldn't be lifers in DC. That just should not be the way it goes. And had they listened to us a couple of decades ago, they might not be in the same position that they are now. But now they've got the next 30 years of the Supreme Court's pretty much sewn up because Democrats were too ignorant again, ignoring the loudest voices of their party. And now we're in a position we're in. That needs to be. We need campaign finance reform. We need term limits, and we need election integrity reform. And until we get any of those things, it's not going to happen.
Here's the thing, though, man. Like the progressives that are in the Democratic Party, the people who run the party don't give a fuck about them. They never have. They're literally trapping them. The Democratic Party is a hoe trap. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
And if you found yourself the victim of a hoe trap, it's okay to leave. Like it is, like it is. Like once it dawns on you, like, oh shit, they boxed me into a corner and said you don't have anywhere else to go because who else is in a position to lie to you like we do? And look, man, if the DNC fraud lawsuit didn't clear it up for everyone when Bruce Spivak said technically there's no such thing as a Democrat, that the DNC is a private entity that doesn't need to follow its own rules or bylaws, we can pick candidates in a smoke-filled back room. The primary process is such that donating to the DNC does in no way, shape, or form guarantee that we will use that money for your candidate. Like if that didn't clear it up, I don't know. Like I said, dude, there's a lot of gullible motherfuckers out there that are like, okay, well, this time we'll give them everything they want. They won't give us anything we want, and then we'll really be able to hold their feet to the fire.
Yep. Oh, now we're talking about Sunrise Movement. That's what we're doing. It's like, hey, you know what? Green New Deal was a deal breaker for years and years. We're not going to support anybody that doesn't support the Green New Deal. But all of a sudden, it went from you know what? We're going to do this unity task force thing. It's going to be okay. We're going to push him to the left on climate. And then it's like, yeah, he said that he probably wouldn't get carbon-free electric, just an electric sector that's carbon-free until like what, 2040, 2045. I mean, I know that's like almost twice the deadline that we have been setting up until this point, but it's okay. It's fine. It's still the most progressive climate plan put forth by any major nominee in the history of mankind. And, all you got to do is all you got to do is vote for Biden, and then give up your vote, give up all of your leverage, right? That's what we're asking you to do. Give up all of your leverage up front, and then try to demand something from him afterwards, instead of demanding a promise up front that can be held, because that's the only way to really hold politicians accountable. You make them promise you everything that you can get them to promise you before you vote for them, and then you vote for them. And then whenever they don't come through on those promises, you vote them out and you tell them that the reason why is that you didn't give me all the stuff I asked for. And that's what, but nobody did that with Biden. It was just like, hey, he is what he is. It's fine. We'll give up all of our power and then we'll get him to do what we want afterwards. And it just doesn't work that way.
4 years of being barraged by Donald Trump is literally the devil if the devil was also Hitler and fucking Voldemort at the same time. And if you're dude, Donald Trump's a piece of shit. He is. Yeah, like there's no doubt in my mind, but I would be more comfortable with 4 more years of Trump as opposed to 8 years of fucking unchecked neoliberalism.
Right.
That really, at this point, with Biden's rhetoric, with Camillery's rhetoric, they're much further to the right of even the Trump administration in foreign policy matters, in surveillance matters, in all of the things that we would classically think of as fascism.
Right.
Merger of corporation and state, using the public-private partnership to skirt transparency laws in order to better target civilians.
I mean,
That's like next level Stasi shit.
Yeah, I mean, but in his administration, is going to be filled of the same, like, and this is the thing, dude, and this is one of my biggest fears now is that we're going to be out here stranded, like on our own little island as far as independent media goes, because, uh, you know, CNN, MSNBC, all these people that have been working day and night trying to find every little pimple on, on Donald Trump's ass, trying to find every little imperfection that he has, in even going as far as destroying their own credibility because there always had to be a story, right? And they even were running with a record number of false stories, a record number of retractions, like over the last 4 years. It's been insane, and so now they're just going to roll over and go back to sleep. Exactly. As soon as if Biden is declared winner, they're going to say the national nightmare is over. Everybody can relax now. They're going to go home. They're going to roll over and they're going to go back to sleep. And then we're not going to hear from them again until the next Republican becomes elected president. And during that time, the Democratic Party is going to run roughshod over pretty much all of the civil liberties that we have left. And look, I know I sound like a super right winger when I say this, but look, individual liberties is also a very deep-rooted staple of the far left as well. And it's not just a right, like individualism is not just a right-wing philosophy. There is a large place for individualism and individual liberties on the left. And it's just a misnomer that there isn't. And the fact of the matter is that the right and the left actually have a lot in common. If you really consider yourself on the right or on the left when it comes to personal liberties, and that should be enough to scare the hell out of you. And that's what I just don't understand why so many people continue to capitulate back to the Democratic left, because it's not the Democratic left. It's as far as it goes, it's the center. And as long as we just stay in the middle the whole time, we're never going to actually get any progress. If anything, we're going to keep continually getting pulled to the right, because that's where you want people to go. You're not giving anybody any reason to do anything different. We are screwed, like really, honestly. We are. I'm not here to like sugarcoat for anybody. We are in deep trouble for the next, for the foreseeable future, because well, the culture is just so sick now, because for the next 4 years it's going to be more obstruction. We're going to get nothing but obstruction. Politics is WWE. It's going to be for show, for ratings, and that's all that's going to be. It's just going to be a bunch of dummies up on screen, fake fighting with one another, just so they can make themselves and their lobbyists, buddies and all of their deep state friends, make them a little bit more rich in the end. And then whenever they get to retire and go join a think tank or write a book or whatever the hell they're just going to do, they're just going to, grift for the rest of their life off of them being in politics. And the rest of us are going to still be going hungry from that COVID relief bill that we never got 4 years ago, or whatever. We're still going to be broke.
Hey,
we're still going to be poor.
But the stock market's doing great. And
oh yeah, buddy.
The CARES Act saved a lot of multimillionaires and a lot of billionaires from experiencing a moment's harm. And Robbie, isn't that really doesn't that just make it worth it?
It just warms my soul.
Those multimillionaires were women,
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, that makes it worth it then. It doesn't matter.
I have a phrase for that though. When the quote unquote left weaponizes identity politics to promote a specific borderline neocon agenda, that's intersectional fascism. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's what the squad is here to do. My God, dude, the way that they've all been talking about censorship is
scary.
It's expected, but it's kind of like Trump made everybody just step on their give a damn, and Trump exposed just how craven and fucking greedy our nation is, especially when it comes to the acquiring of another country's natural resources for our profit.
I mean, if you want to talk about mask off scenarios, this is one of them. This is people that have been paying attention. This is where they're showing you right now that it's not about anything other than maintaining the status quo. It always will be. It always will be. I mean, and it's and I look, and when I say we're screwed, it's because I don't know how any way that we can get our way out of it. You can't, like Gloria said, we can't vote our way out of this at this point because it's just so deeply entrenched. It doesn't mean I wish Trump was still going to be president because I mean, what does it matter? South Park called it, giant douche, turd sandwich. Which one do you want? And you're going to vote shame us for not voting for one or the other. I don't know.
I loved Whitney's analogy, which was, I don't care what the bread choice is with my shit sandwich.
Right, yeah. This is how
it's artisan.
It's almost like what Nina Turner said about it. It was kind of like, it's being presented with the option of eating a bowl of shit, and Republicans are going to tell you, all right, here's this bowl of shit. You need to eat it. You have to eat it with your bare hands. And then a Democrat walks by and said, no, you shouldn't have to eat it with your bare hands. Here's a knife and a fork, right? And then the Green Party member walks by and says, hey, that knife and fork better be eco-friendly, right? Better be biodegradable, or else you're a bad person. And the Libertarian says, hey, you don't have to just eat the shit if you want to. You don't have to eat that shit. You can eat it with your you can eat it with a bear. You can don't let somebody tell you how you have to eat your shit. You have to eat your shit however you like. That's the Libertarian way.
Oh my god, it's so good.
I don't know, man.
But
does anybody have any solutions?
Huh?
What's your solution? Well, what are we doing? Like, how do we get? Where do we do from here? I'm just gonna smoke lots of blunts.
That's
all I know how to do. Anyway,
man, I'm fully ready to just kind of disappear into some different mountains and fucking what I really want to be able to do, like, I'm not gonna quit or anything. I'm still like my activism isn't going anywhere, but
right.
I think a much further off-grid change of location is necessary, and if I can like fish off of my deck, I won't be pissed.
That's a good goal.
I don't want much out of life, bro. I don't. Yeah. But like at least on my like little patch of dirt,
Yep.
But we're in a situation where a number of different things are coming to a head, and it's all the same cast of bastards that are involved in nearly every single one, and this is external to the presidential election. This is what Klaus Schwab, the CEO of the World Economic Forum, has called the Great Reset, which is the complete capitalization of nature. Basically, the people who destroyed the planet would like to hijack what's left of it and ransom some of it back to us. There's that. The Department of Homeland Security has been screaming now for the last month that we are approaching or going to have a new 9/11, and they know this, but they can't stop it. We've got a ridiculous amount of surveillance technology that has come into play because of COVID. Biden and Harris would incredibly alter the face of our healthcare system, but not in a positive way. And it's bad enough what Trump has done in terms of like contact tracing and the ridiculous amount of, as actually I can't blame Trump for this, is that public-private partnership that works out so well when people like Eric Schmidt and Bill Gates get together to determine the future of education in New York. Or they've given Team 8, which is an organization that Eric Schmidt is a part of, but it's also mostly US and Israeli spooks, and they're in charge of turning New York into a place of smart cities. Like, this electorally, we can't do shit. What we can do, hopefully, is figure out that we're more alike than we are different, and get together in public and in mass. It's like we're basically going to have some sort of citizen uprising in order to move government an inch. And at that point, we may no longer have Julian Assange. If we don't have Julian Assange, we don't have investigative journalism, period. We don't.
Yeah, I mean, look, you make a good point there too, because you've been doing incredible coverage. You guys have the whole time, like the entire time that the Assange, like from day one. So like, we need you. Like, you guys have been doing great stuff, man. Like, seriously, you're like the go-to for it. At least you should be considered the go-to for it. Nobody else is doing it, but those that are, I mean, look, you guys are the authority on that. At least that's the way I look at it.
Thank you.
But to be quite honest with you, like, first they came for Assange, right? And like, that's not just a saying for like a t-shirt, right? That's exactly what happened. And now here we are, when we had the entirety of mainstream media cheering on the federal government in their quest to censor Julian Assange. Now here we are now in the discussions with Facebook and Twitter and the censorship that look, that New York Post story, the way it used to work is that if a publisher decided that they wanted to post a story that may or may not have been true, then they would post that story anyway. They'd run that story, they'd stake their credibility on that story, and then other outlets would fact check it and either confirm it or not. Right? That's the way it used to work. And if that publication put out a story that turned out to be a false lead, or just an inaccuracy, or just a complete falsehood of a story, they would also publish a retraction, and their credibility would be forever stained. And that was the risk they took for publishing a bad story, right? But it was the people that decided that. Like, it was like, journalism usually polices itself, and we see that in the independent media spectrum too. Look, like, somebody out there, like, on another one of these YouTubers get out of pocket, right? Somebody is making a video, like, it almost immediately, like, just smashing them for like the next week. And that's just how we do each other in the independent media spectrum. And I find it funny. That's how we do each other. We police each other, and newspapers used to do a little bit more cordially, right? But they would still do it when we didn't have these arbiters of free speech telling us, oh, well, the New York Post, you can't share that article because it's false. Donald Trump retweeted an article from the Babylon Bee. Y'all let him do that. Like, you let the Onion have a Twitter account. So where does the common sense begin? And it makes zero sense how that these things are going on right now. Like, Donald Trump literally retweeted an article from the Babylon Bee, thinking it was real. Like, it was a real article. And it was like, nobody tell him. Don't nobody spoil it. Don't tell him. Just let him keep going. Twitter didn't censor that, saying, oh, this you can't share this article because it's false. I mean, it's total nonsense. And it gave it the complete partisan view. And as we know now, I mean, that there are lots of, like, big tech is 100% behind Biden. I mean, you mentioned Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt was one of the largest donors to some of Biden's most prominent super PACs this time around. And look, one of the most interesting reads I've ever read in my entire life is the foreword to When Google Met WikiLeaks by Julian Assange. It's just fascinating, like, the interaction that they had with one another. And it just let in like just the circumstances of their meeting, the people that were arriving with Schmidt, people that were like straight up like they wouldn't exactly say who they were, but they were just simply like connected to the State Department in some kind of capacity. It's very eerie the type of the type of people that hang around Eric Schmidt, and how powerful Alphabet actually is. And when people like used to laugh at me because I'm no like the Terminator movies, Skynet, right? That's Google, right? Like to me, like that's Google. It's either Google or Amazon. It's one of the two. They go back and forth, but like that's the kind of power we're giving them. That's the kind of power our federal government is giving these individuals like Eric Schmidt, and and even now Elon Musk. Of course, there was the whole like we'll coup whoever we want type thing for the lithium and all that stuff, but now he's like sending military satellites into orbit via SpaceX.
Yeah.
He's look, it's big business out here.
We were just talking the other day about the left's inability to criticize Elon Musk. Like he got a little bit of shit for the will coup whoever we want, but largely the left independent media is entirely uncurious about Elon Musk, and this is the guy who wants everyone to get a Neuralink.
Isn't that the worst idea you've ever heard?
Because he's one of the cool billionaires, Steve.
Right.
He's a flamethrower, guys.
Let's get Elon to sell the transhumanist agenda because Bezos already looks too creepy.
Yeah,
Like
well,
they're not gonna buy it from him. He's that little plastic piece away from being Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element. He really is.
No, Jeff Bezos literally does look. He looks like a DC comic supervillain. Like
He
but, like,
does.
one of-
Lex Luthor.
but like
Luthor.
yeah, but like not really even Lex Luthor because he's so tiny. Like he looks like Hawkman's worst enemy or something. Like he's not like even a main superhero. Like it's just like somebody like that you never even heard of. He's just like their biggest bad guy. He looks like Mr. Freeze out of his he looks like Mr. Freeze without his helmet.
Yeah.
Like
He's like one of those discount supervillains that just get like knocked out in like the first 2 minutes of the show just so the hero can intro themselves like before the main villain comes on.
He looks like the first guy to get beat up in a Steven Seagal movie. But like
That's fair.
You know how he got so jacked, right?
Bezos?
Yeah, lifting all that money, man. Like
Yeah.
damn,
Yeah.
look at that.
I thought he was going to say adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome. I mean, we laugh at that, but like
Henry,
It doesn't matter. Look, it doesn't matter if we believe in it. It matters if they believe in it.
right.
That's what matters. Because if they believe in it, they're gonna go do it, and that's fucking sick.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean-
Robbie, I got some shit. I got a meeting in about an hour, and I got a bunch of shit to do in between.
Cool.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. You're right, man. It's been far too long.
Sure.
Please let me know when you got something like with extra sauce on it. In terms of the FEC filings, and
Sure.
please tell people where they can find you. And if you have any final thoughts, throw them out.
Yeah, sure. So as far as I know I've been taking a little bit of break, but I'm going to be getting back into things shortly. I just needed a little bit of time to recharge. I knew the election was going to come up, and there wasn't going to be really much any room for any other stories. Any other stories that broke right now are going to get swept away under the election day phenomenon that's going on. But you can find me on Twitter at Rob Little Fire. That's usually where I talk most of my shit. It's where I get into most of my trouble. So if you want to come fuck with me over there, that's probably the best place to do it. You can check me out on Rockfin. I have my own YouTube show, which I'm going to be trying to get back into shortly as soon as I, fix a few issues on the technological side of things. But yeah, man, like it's been real fun. I'm glad you brought me back, and I'm looking into a few things right now. I'm putting together some pieces for some reports I'm writing. But nothing that's ready to be released right yet. But as soon as it is, that you'll probably be one of the first people to get a hold of it. So just stay tuned, guys. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. We're all going to be here. We got to now. Like I said, it's just the age right now of independent media, because the mainstream media is going to act like it doesn't even exist for the next 4 years. And if nobody is going to be here doing these jobs and investigating the people in power, then we're basically dooming ourselves. So just keep it up. You guys keep it up with your Assange coverage, because honestly, like I said, guys, nobody else is really talking about it, and somebody has to. So like I said, I'm really glad that you guys are doing that.
Right on, man. Glory, what you got?
So I don't know how many of y'all watch Naruto, but there's this clip during the introduction of the villain Madara, where he's going up against the Shinobi Alliance, and this is like one man versus an entire fucking army, and he just goes in and beats the shit out of all of them. It's like one of the most badass like anime villain intros ever. And that is a representation of what Robbie's Twitter timeline looks like. It's a really great thing to look at.
Yeah, wondering where you were headed with that, man. Well done.
Yeah, people do get very mad at me. Yes.
Yeah, you make all the friends.
Talk shit with you, Robbie. It's like, especially because we have all mutuals, so it was awesome to talk. Thank gentlemen for letting me go on my rant. It's always awesome to be on these streams, and I got none but love for everyone in the chat. Fuck censorship, fuck punk asses in indie media that don't want to cover this shit. Like, so fuck all y'all, and I'm gonna keep calling y'all out because that's what we're here for. I'm in this shit like Jose Mourinho. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make history. But like, I love y'all. But at the same time, I don't care if I offend punk asses in indie media like TYT. So
that's right.
Right on. Well, that's gonna do it. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Glory. Thanks, Sleepy Josh on the ones and twos. To everybody watching right now, I fucking love you guys. You're awesome. Let me tell you how super chats are gonna work this month, because the last 2 months went to Shadowproof, Kevin Gastola's outlet, and then like everything before that basically went into our DC fundraiser to be there in September. But for 2 weeks, all of the super chats are going to go to Commander X. And then the second half of November, going to put that towards going back to DC in January, because Action for Assange will be in Washington, DC, the day that Vanessa Baratzer, the concierge of the U.S. State Department, will read her statement that will determine whether or not Julian will be broad daylight kidnapped and renditioned to the United States. So we'll see you Saturday if you're here for the Assange Vigil, and we'll see you Sunday with Juan Passarelli and Vanessa Beeley, and that will be fucking awesome.
Yeah, that should be good.
And I'm thinking about doing for the Rockfin on Sunday night. I'm thinking about doing another moderator stream.
Sounds great.
We'll talk more about that. Love you guys. Good luck to us all.